In spring 1938, Austria is reunited with Germany. And near the end of the school year, a Nazi official, an SS officer, accompanies Herr Vink to class. The official introduces himself as Asmus, the senior district director of the Hitler Youth in the Hammerbrook neighborhood. As you know, all eligible young people are required by law to join the Hitler Youth, Herr Asmus says crisply. It's your duty to serve the fatherland. Most of you already belong. I am here today to sign up stragglers. Helmuth is the first to be called. He stands, wishes he could drop through the floor. Wishes he could drop through the floor. Was a time when Helmuth longed to join, but living with Hugo has changed all that. Herr Asmus looks down at his orderly notes. Names, he asks, though Helmuth can see his name printed there, plain as day in the non-member column. Helmuth stands straight, arms at his side, takes a deep breath, says, Gudat, Helmuth Gudat. The director asks general questions about Helmuth's family and their political beliefs, which Helmuth answers briskly. Nein, I am not a member of the Hitler Youth. Nein, my mother is not a communist. Ja, my mother's name is Emma Gudat Kunkel. My mother is divorced from her first husband, Johannes Kunkel. I have two older brothers, Hans and Gerard Kunkel. My mother never married my father. Herr Asmus looks to Helmuth. A mocking smile crosses his face. She is engaged to marry Hugo Hübner, said Helmuth. At this, Asmus arches one eyebrow, says, Hübner, you say, the Rottenführer? Ja. Asmus nods in approval. Ach, ja, he says, the Rottenführer is a good Nazi. He pries no further. He scribbles a notation and then hands Helmuth a paper to sign and another to get signed at home. Helmuth takes the first paper and signs his name, assuring that he is 100% Aryan, not one drop Jewish blood. He has the documentation to prove it for 6 generations. Welcome, says Asmus. Here's the address of your Kameradschaft meeting. He slides a piece of paper toward Helmuth. Report Wednesday at 7 o'clock sharp. Mutti doesn't fuss at all, and the next day, Hugo surprises Helmuth with a brown Jugvolk shirt and the 10 Pfennig for dues. Few men are born to lead. The rest are born to follow, he tells Helmuth. You are a leader, my boy, I can tell. All that spring and into the summer, Helmuth busies himself with the Jungvolk, its meetings and games and weekend hiking and camping trips. Oma and Opa complain that Helmuth misses church, and that's something that Helmuth misses too. But Hugo tells Oma and Opa that it's Helmuth's duty. God expects young people to serve the fatherland, he says. It's one of the sacrifices young Germans must make for their country. He beams as he looks at Helmuth. Isn't that right, my boy? We are back forward in jail. The sound of feet rang outside Helmuth's cell. A key turns in the lock and the door swings open. Helmuth catches his breath, releases it slowly. It's the morning guard, exercise time. Helmuth picks up his slop bucket, carries it outside, waits his turn to empty it, hose it out. Everything feels magnified in the prison yard. The crisp autumn air, the grass, the trees, the leaves, red, yellow, orange, the sky blue clouds, white sun, yellow, so much color, so much air, so much light. So much everything, it hurts. The guard barks a command. The prisoners trudge clockwise around the prison yard, marching single file on the worn path, their gray prison smocks billowing like the wings of birds. It's verboten to speak to other prisoners. What do you think that means? Forbidden. The Helmuth keeps his head down, avoids their faces, doesn't want to see the new faces or the missing faces after the executioner has done his work. He looks down his thin legs, his knobby knees, his worn leather shoes, no shoelaces, the grass, the dirt. Thinks instead of his 2 best friends, Rudy Waub and Karl-Heinz Schneib, sees Rudy's worried face, Karl's big grin, a face comfortable with smiling. The boys lived in different neighborhoods and attended different schools, but they belonged to the same Mormon church. There aren't many Mormons in Hamburg, and the church is housed in a factory building in the St. George district of Hamburg. It seemed as though the 3 boys were destined to be friends from the day they met in primary class at church. Flashback to 1938. By summer 1938, the city parks have sprouted signs forbidding Jews to enter. Churches, too, for the Nazis declare that even Jews who convert to Christianity are still Jews. Such a sign is even posted at Helmut's church to protect the church from Jews. This is what the branch president says after he sees the Gestapo sitting in the back of the church taking notes. The Nazis watch everything: churches, schools, places people work. But church members protest and tear down the signs after 1 week. The Hitler Youth's Jungvold meetings keep Helmut busy, and several weeks pass before Helmut sees his friend Rudy Waub. When he does, it's by chance that they meet. Helmut is sitting on a park bench reading a detective novel. Rudy sits himself down next to Helmut. "Where have you been?" he asks. Helmut dog-ears the page and closes the book. "Jungvolk," he says. Rudy scowls. "You joined?" Helmut nods, and Rudy grows silent, giving the bobbing mallards his undivided attention. Helmut knows that Rudy had a bad experience in the Jungvolk, that he quit after his squad had roughed him up. Karl Schneib's experience wasn't much better, except that Karl was expelled after he beat up a zealous platoon leader. Karl has no patience for Nazis or bullies. "So you're a Nazi now," says Rudy. Helmut stares at a pair of ducks circling each other, admires how smooth and unruffled they look, but beneath the water they're paddling furiously. "Hugo bought me the shirt and paid the dues," he says to Rudy. "I couldn't refuse, but don't mistake me for a Nazi. I'm nothing like Hugo." He doesn't want to tell Rudy that there are things he actually likes about the Jungvolk, the weekend hiking and camping trips that take him away from the Sachsenstrasse flat that feels so full of Hugo. There's also a special Hitler Youth section for older boys that intrigues him, the H.G. Streidenfists, a patrol force whose members act as junior Gestapo. He likes the idea of detective work, of working to serve and protect the public, but that doesn't make him a Nazi. If Helmut were a detective, he'd arrest real criminals, not the ordinary men and women who criticize Hitler or the Nazi Party and find themselves denounced by friends and neighbors. Helmut glances back at Rudy and can tell he's brooding. "You'd like this book," Helmut says, changing the subject. He reads the title out loud. "Lord Lister, Gnat Raffles, der Gross Unbekannt." It's about a gentleman thief who helps honest men ruined by swindlers. Silence. "The thief twists the law," says Helmut, "but he does so for honorable reasons, to bring dishonest men to justice. He robs the robbers." "Like Robin Hood?" says Rudy. "Exactly," says Helmut. Helmut has missed his friend, finds himself irritated that Jungvolk duty has kept them apart. Suddenly, Helmut is struck with an idea, one that will restore their friendship. "Rudy, we should start our own detective agency," he says. Rudy looks at him incredulously. "And play detectives like children?" "No," says Helmut. "Have you not noticed all the unsolved crimes in the newspaper? The police say they need our help, and that it's our duty to report suspicious activity." "Do you mean spy on our neighbors?" Rudy's eyes narrow with disgust. "The Nazis have enough informers." "No, real crimes, robberies and murders." "We can't do that. We're not old enough. The police will laugh at us." "They won't laugh," says Helmut. "Not when they see that we can think like adults." He taps his head with his forefinger. "And we have an advantage. We're young, so criminals won't suspect us. We'll get more information that way." "It's impossible," says Rudy. "You're talking about the Gestapo." He shudders. "I'd rather steer clear of them. A lot of people disappear after the Gestapo visit." "I'm not afraid of the Gestapo," says Helmut. He straightens his shoulder and juts out his chin. When we crack our first case, we'll be famous. Maybe they'll even offer us a reward, or a job. Come on, it can't hurt to try." Helmut watches Rudy's face. Everything Rudy thinks shows on his face. Before Rudy says so, Helmut can see his face shift into agreement. "Sure," says Rudy. "Okay, why not? We'll be detectives."